All right.
Yeah, I could go for it. I'll just sit here patiently.
Okay, please do. All right, as you can see down below, I got my friend Bio. All right, as you can see right down below, I got my friend. Shut the hell up, Bevo. Shut the hell up.
Just put this in here. Have this be the intro. Just.
As you can see from my multiple failed attempts, I have my friend Bevo down below, and he's gonna help me commentate over Matsuri's scrim matches, and then Kuzuha, Kane, and the Chihiro trio.
Yeah, I'm here to say words and do things.
You better leave that in, Nick.
Me, that's my job.
Yeah, so he's gonna help out because I always usually need another perspective, one more that's more experienced than me when it comes to watching tournament playstyle, because he just competed in ALGS, so he has, first of all, his brain is turned on right now, okay? And overall, he just has a lot more experience than me, so I definitely
it's on to a degree.
To a degree.
It's 6 hours straight. I'm functioning. I mean, so they're playing. We looked at this earlier, right? Do you want to show chat the fucking infographic thing that I sent you of because we were. Did you tell them that we looked at it or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, let me briefly look at it.
Yeah. So we looked up what the common sort of meta is for. Wait, that's not it. That's the wrong thing. No.
So it's the pick rates it's what compositions that were for players in the APAC region, which is Korea and Japan, what comps they played in ALGS Winter Circuit online tournament 4, which was 2 weeks ago.
So right now, as we saw, they're running Horizon, Gibi, and Revenant, which was a very interesting comp to us because, as you can see, Revenant isn't picked at all in APAC North. So we were just like kind of taken aback a little bit because we were just like, huh? Because we had previously looked at this. So we're like, okay, Revenant, this is the first time Revenant's probably picked in a tournament, but at the same time, it's not like it's a professional tournament, it's a VTuber tournament, so it makes sense that they're not gonna maybe always play super meta and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I can go into more depth about that too, of like it's interesting to see the popular picks, like what the popular comps in APAC are, because at least for like North America, the most popular compositions are Wraith, Gib, Bloodhound, or Wraith, Gib, Crypto. You see a really high pick rate for Wraith, and she's still like, people were testing out Horizon a little bit to replace her, just because of her tactical is really strong, being able to get that high ground, and then combination with her alt is really insane, that like pulling people out of position. Like when Horizon throws an ult down, you either have to focus it or get destroyed by nades. So Wraith just is really popular because of her portal. So that's why most teams have been going with her. So portals lets you reposition. Then Gibi, Dome is really strong. You'll see Gibi just everywhere because Dome gives you so much utility and so much ability to fight positions that you would not have been able to fight in before, because you can throw Dome and now you have this space and this aggression and what you can play this pocket, and you can play around that and win fights purely off of just how you use Dome. And then his ult is obviously really strong for zoning a team like away from you, like creating an area where they just can't be in, and then also using it to clean up something.
It was definitely just like really interesting, because I think one of the things that really stood out to me was Wraith's like super low pick rate in APAC North compared to the West, right? Because looking at Wraith's pick rate over here, she has a 47.5%. That was just astounding to me that Horizon has a higher pick rate in comp than
100%
than the US. Like Wraith's pick rate is so much higher. I think it was like 80 something percent, right? When in the US, and it was crazy.
And this works. I mean, Horizon and Gib, you can use Horizon for the rotates, and Gib ult, and Gib's just strong, and then Rev lets you do more aggressive things because you use Totem. Totem's insane.
Yeah, Revenant definitely lets you be a little bit more annoying and creative. Find it crazy how focused the meta is in Apex. It's definitely opened up.
It for sure has. Like, right now, we're in a time where like the meta is the most varied.
Yeah,
like, we have the most viable comps.
Yeah, you guys should have seen like season 1 to season 4 or 5.
A while.
Where
when did they nerf Watson? That's what changed it.
Yeah,
that was. Yeah, like season 5 probably, right?
Yeah, for the longest time, it was literally just Wraith, Pathfinder, Watson, and then they replaced Pathfinder with Gibi or...
Yeah, those are the two variations you would see. Like, as a viewer, you get to see more shit happen. And as a player, like, it definitely... Because before it was, like, the same playstyle every single game. because you just find a ability, you sit in with Watson. But now it's like depending upon who you're going up and what comps and like what the meta of like that lobby is, things become a lot more not as predictable, and it's interesting. It's fun, definitely fun.
All right. It's nice that this is translated because we have the comms now. Yeah. There's a very good chance there's nobody here. I mean, there is nobody here because it's match 4, and they've probably been landing here every single match.
Yeah, during a tournament, you have your spot that you want to land. It's not like pubs where you're landing different spots every time. It's important to just, because in competitive, you want to do everything you can to curb RNG and make things as consistent as possible, and that's just one of those things.
かもしれない。マジでいないかも。でもまだちょっと一応気をつけて。わかんないね。おー、
They like the diva.
しかもこれもある。
Turbo's diva. It's a scary weapon for sure. Fully spun up. I think it has the highest DPS of all weapons.
Yeah, it's. If the turbocharger was more common, it'd be a scary time.
100%. So how important would you say composition is? So composition, what comp you want to play purely depends on your play style. And obviously, like there are compositions that are stronger than others just objectively, because you want to pick the composition of characters that get the most value in the most broad amount of scenarios. So like characters that are like good in only very specific niche situations aren't going to be picked, because like you don't get to choose, like you're going to be going through all these crazy different scenarios every single game. So you want to be able to have like as broad of a like toolkit basically as you can. So composition, basically, like what you're saying, is how strong is it, or how important is it? It is very important to pick a composition that gives you the most what am I trying to say? Like utility and fits your playstyle best.
Like if you're comfortable playing I can't pause this thing. If you're comfortable, if you're most comfortable, I guess, holding one position for most of the game, then don't play. I mean, you can't play Gibby, but play Caustic, right? Don't play.
Yeah.
Play somebody who excels in a lot of combat that isn't necessarily inside a building or stuff like that. So it just depends on what you're most comfortable with. So if you're more aggressive, then pick a comp that's a more aggressive comp, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. You want the comps to fit your playstyle way more in competitive than you would in ranked, just because of how much more playstyles affect the overall game itself. Because you can kind of make any character work with any playstyle when you're playing in ranked, but you will be punished more for not playing characters the way they should be played in competitive than you would in ranked.
In ranked, the character that you're playing doesn't matter, because like if you just have more mechanical skill than the other players, you can just abuse that and you can just out aim every other player and
for the most part.
Never need to like you never need to touch your abilities. Whereas like in competitive, at high level competitive, everyone has the same base level, like more or less has the same base level mechanical skill. So the way that you're like getting the advantage over another team in a fight is not by out aiming them, it's by using your abilities and like your like playing the way that your composition plays the best, to like use that to gain an advantage than like over them. So that's why like composition matters a lot more, and how you like utilize and play around that. And there's not like a necessarily like straight right way to play one composition, but there are like better, like they're better at certain things than others, but like it just comes down to how you play them and what you find like works. I'm probably gonna overspeak most of the time because I'm very like passionate and love to talk about this stuff.
My man loves to talk. And we're okay with that. So they've talked about, I think they've mentioned Elysium a little bit. And looks like somebody's already over there.
The Horizon's over there already. Okay. Yeah, I think they talked about how they were asking, I think at the beginning of the game, if anybody went there.
Should be a Hal like tearing up the lobby.
Oh, he's cracked. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
Oh, hearing people talk about games they love. Yeah. Wholesome moment. But yeah, no, this is super good. Like this is the fact that no one landed here. Like this is so much more loot that they can just like.
It's fat.
They can walk out after looting just kitted and probably have an advantage. Use that to like over other teams that have like just like blues and whites.
아 오케이.
I definitely would have liked them to like pulled up their map by now and kind of decide, or at least take guesses on where the circle is going to be and where to move, because I feel like you should very much do that early on, which they haven't done so far. But I think by now would definitely have recommended you be planning final circle rotations and stuff. Maybe not super final circle, but like a final circle estimation, and then plan your rotations based off of where you think that final circle is going to be.
100%. That's like the second the round shows up, like the second the zone shows up, you want to pull up your map and talk with your team about like where you want to go, because if you're like, it's not like a pub where you can just walk around and just do whatever and just go fight things. Like in here, people are going to be holding positions that they feel is the most important, the most advantageous, and you want to get to that position before someone else gets to that position. So you just need to think about how fast you're doing things and when you're doing things, and if it's going to be able to, if you're going to be able to get to where you want versus like what you can actually realistically grab. And it's a whole like so many nuances and depth to it.
So they talked about rotations a little bit, I think. Something along the lines of going down to the bottom of Bonsai, I think?
Yeah, I think so, right?
But I don't remember the specifics of what they said. Might have just missed it.
Yeah, I think they just briefly mentioned something about Bonsai.
I think this round the teams wanted to hunt the previous round's champion, who was also sitting at first place in the tournament so far. Well, they just died, I'm pretty sure, right?
Where did that team? Did they know where that team was landing? Because then they could have. If they landed here, that makes some sense as to like what they're doing right now.
I don't know. I would have liked when they were dropping. I would have liked for them to like, or at least for Matsuri to look around and see where people dropped where. Although I'm pretty sure it is the 4th match, so she might have done it like the first 2 matches and she knows where they all are. But from a viewer perspective, seeing this for the first or second time, you know, it's not gonna. We don't know whether the teams are right.
There is also another layer to that of. So like you're saying, because it's like the 4th round, like that's when everyone's like kind of, I've been dropping here this whole tournament, this is where I'm gonna go. But on the flip side, when it's like the last game or like the last 2 games, there are teams who are desperate, who are just on the edge of like winning a prize or qualifying to the next round or something, who are gonna look for a place to just 50 someone and just win it and just go out for like an all-out thing. It has happened to me. I've done it. Yeah, we might want to go back because they were fighting, I think, or at least I saw the giving damage and shit.
We see circle pulled a little bit south and to the right, so we can more or less assume that it's gonna follow the same thing ish, right? So south to the right, south to the right. So what was our prediction?
We were saying like below Grow Tower, like to the, there's the little hole thing on the map, right? That big like oval circle hole on kind of the middle of it, the new zone. Right. I was saying to like the right-ish of there, like kind of below
right here
Grow Tower.
They already know where everyone lands based on scrims. Oh yeah, because I think over in these scrims, I think everybody, for the most part, everybody who plays in the tournament shows up in the scrims. Must be nice.
Oh really? That would
must be nice.
Imagine.
It must be nice. Middle-ish to the right, middle to the right. So we guessed somewhere around this Grow Tower area. I'll read it. Thinking Grow Tower endings, the pit right there, maybe up and to the right of it. So this is what I called the pit over here, up and to the right. So something like this. That's what our guess was initially.
I seem surprised that no one landed Elysium because it seemed like there's a team that normally landed there. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised no one went there either because it's good loot.
Yeah, it is good loot.
That gives them like the fact that they were able to loot that and where they landed. I forgot the names and I can't read Japanese. So that's why they have all purples.
Yeah, who doesn't watch tournaments coming in? What are scrims? Scrims are just scrimmages. They're like practice tournament matches, so you can get a feel for the environment and like play style. Like in baseball, if you go have a scrimmage with another team, you know, you're playing for realsies, playing serious, but like it's a practice game. It's not real, but it gets you preparation for when you do play in the actual tournament.
I mean, I was just gonna talk about
because she might see this, so it might help her in terms of like learning how to read zones. You know.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So if we can get the zone back up, yeah. Okay. So like, if anyone was wondering like what we mean, like what we based our guess for the next zone off of, like how we're just like, oh, it's probably like below Grow Tower. Oh, it's like that seems like it makes sense. It's hard to put into words what justifies that. It's just the way you learn and get a feel for where the zone's gonna end and how you think what makes the most sense is just by when you're playing, making a mental note of how the zone's pulling and like where it goes each round. And as you like focus more on each zone and how each zone pulled and what's going on, you kind of begin to just like understand like the algorithm in a way. And so like you can look at a zone and just be like, oh, this is this, it's probably gonna go here. You can also like, there's some basic tips that you can do starting out. Like you can see that the zone pulled to the right and like a little south, and like a lot of the times when it like pulls in a specific direction, like a
not always
good chunk of time.
I say 75%.
yeah, I would say like 70% or something. Like if it pulls in a way, it'll probably then just continue to pull that way, and that's like a safe way to read it. And then you can just start to look at like, if you look at like the left kind of corner of the new zone with all those like bridges and gaps, like it'd be really weird if a zone ended there, and that would kind of suck because there's so much dead space. So you can kind of rule that out. Yeah, it can't. I mean, literally, I've seen the craziest shit happen in Apex. So like you can never fully count anything off. That's why it's always a guess. But like you basically just go and you like this would be really strange if it ended here, and judging by this, it can go here, and you just the biggest guess. I guess the biggest advice I would say if you want to try to learn zones is just every match you're in, whether it's in a pub or ranked or whatever, just pull up your map each time a new zone comes up and just try to guess and then see where it ended up, and then you can just like learn from zone. You basically just have to study the zones.
Yeah, I'd say that besides the circles just being in the dead center every single time, it's usually going to pull in one of the four, for the most part, one of the four, I guess, quadrants of the circle, right? It never goes straight right or just straight left or straight up or straight down. Most of the time it can. If it goes straight right, then it's just going to keep going straight right. But you can kind of like visibly see the playable area that the zone will pull just from looking at the first one. So like we said, saw it go down to the right. So we can assume that the playable area of the next zone is this whole like bottom right quadrant sort of, right? That kind of makes sense. And so that's kind of like how I look at it sometimes. You know, obviously if it's not any sort of diagonal pull, then it's going to be a little bit more obvious that it's more just a direct route. But the whole quadrant thing definitely helps when it's a combination of both up and down and left and right. So you guys can think of it like that if you want. Yeah, no, that's a really good way of putting it, of simplifying it. Those are some map reading tips. So if you want to, should it help you guys with reading circles? Because reading circles, pull out the notepad and start writing. Yeah, reading circles is one of the most important things in this game. It takes away RNG and it very much allows you to do things with more certainty. Yeah, because like your whole play and everything you're doing is revolved around the assumptions that you make about ring. And so like if you say like, oh, ring's gonna land here, then you do things to put yourself in a position to end up in where you think that ring is. But then like if you read it wrong and ring ends up like way on the other side of the map, then you're in a really bad position. So basically, yeah, ring knowledge is very, very important. So they're taking a lot of damage outside of the ring right now. It's especially important because they're super far away, like super far away from the ring, from the next circle. So they don't want to spend a lot of time out here. Yeah, I noticed they're crafting, and they're crafting like in zone, and we've talked about, like we were talking about how they got this area and they got Elysium, so they already got so much loot and so much stuff to just go, like they should be kitted and good, and there's no reason they need to be in zone still looting. Like they have all purples, there's not really, and they have all good guns that they want. Like there's not really a reason to be just looting right now. They should be in zone. Because like if a team is gatekeeping them, and gatekeeping means like if they're on the edge of zone looking in, like trying to catch a team late, like what they're doing right now, if a team is trying to hold them out, they're in a really bad position. Yep. I've started learning how to read circles. My game's improved dramatically. Yeah, 100%. Once you know where the ring's going, you are infinitely in a better position. Because then you can control the entire game, right? Like, you know how it's going to end, and there are people who don't, and you can punish those people who don't. No, it's like, it's kind of funny how like small it sounds, but it's such a huge, crazy. It's such a huge thing. You can be as cracked as you want, bro, but if you If a team knows where it's going to be and they set themselves up in a proper position and you don't, your mechanical skill doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, like,
we saw
if
another
you're
ring.
out in the open and they have a building, what are you gonna do? like
Yeah. So we got another ring here, and so it went down to the right. When we saw this yesterday, we were like, okay, we might be wrong. We were wrong. I think our guess was too high up here, because now this whole area right here near Grow Towers is actually sort of like to the north of the ring. So we were wrong. That means we got to go back, take this new ring, go down to the right, and so this is gonna put us right to the north of Orbital Cannon, and there's a lot of high ground there, and so you definitely want to take that spot if you can.
I think they talk about it too at some point.
Yeah.
About taking, because there's really big height there too. Like that whole like wall, the outer wall of Orbital. A team can just sit up there and just beam teams for free, and it's really hard to contest them.
No, it is massive.
Yeah, they're still in zone, so
they should not be in zone. They're spending way too much time in here.
Can we get back to that real quick? Yeah, I think they said like there's like it's like we still have 235 left, and it's close, so they're just like, we can still sit here. But the issue is like, if you look at this next ring,
they have to push in.
I'm hovering.
They have to push in downhill. They have to push in downhill to this house where this res beacon is. If there is a team holding this house, they are essentially boned, because they're going to be gate kept very, 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 very badly. Very badly. They want to, they're forced to play edge now. There's no way they can get a center position now, because they're spending way too much time, and teams are probably going to be held up over in Orbital already. They need to get this like soon, right? Because if there's a team that's gatekeeping this house, or there's a team inside the house, they're going to gatekeep them, and they just...
Yeah, because like if there's a team there, but they show up with 2 minutes left before zone starts to close, they like still have time to figure something out and figure out a way to get past them, or maybe fight them and win that. But if they show up with like 30 seconds left, you don't have a lot of time, and ring's gonna just mess you up and end up getting you killed. And like that's another, so that's like a trade-off of where Wraith would be really helpful. Portal, like being able to portal past a team in your way to a more advantageous spot is what makes her so strong. But like that's what they're giving up by choosing Horizon. And then obviously Horizon has plus sides of being able to take high ground and her ult. And so it's like, that's where it's like a constant trade-off of like, we're talking about composition. Every legend is good at certain things, and it's like, what do you value more than the other, and how you utilize that.
So they're going to craft.
Yeah, and like we hit on this earlier, of like, there's no reason for them to be crafting, because they already should have a ton of heals from the just insane amount of area that they looted, and like the density of loot that they got.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming they're crafting like white heals and like medkits and stuff like that, just because of the amount of damage that they're taking from the ring, that they need to, I guess, replenish it, because they've used a lot of it.
Yeah, but at the same time, they would never have needed to craft more if they never sat in zone for so long and took that damage. So it's like a whole...
that car should have been ready to go, like,
yeah,
before the ring even got there.
Like on top of the whole bad rotations and could get gate kept really hard, it's also like the longer you're in zone, the more resources you're consuming. So
yeah, it just seemed really necessary. There's nothing really that they gained from all this crafting and all this zone looting, besides maybe an extra bat or two.
Yeah, 100%. They like the heals that they just crafted there are then just used immediately because they took more damage.
Oh no, that's a med.
Yeah. No, that's a med.
Yeah, no, she's using a full med kit. Now she's back to 1, which is what she had at the beginning. So.
Yeah, so this is what we're talking about. Like, they think there's a team there.
Yeah,
and if there's a team there,
this is gonna be a problem. If there's a team, a huge problem for them.
Yeah, because look what they have in zone. I don't even know if that rock where Horizon is in. They don't have any cover. They literally have to just slide down this hill. So if there's a team there, they're just held out, and they don't have a Wraith to portal in or anything. They just have to do their best to try to give you dumb forward and make something happen. Whereas like,
and their only other option would be to take this compound up to the north, right? But there's a very good chance that people, because
no,
there's 17 teams
other
left,
options.
The circle is huge. Like there's probably a team there. So there are two options are over here and the compound to the north. So this is more of an uncommon thing in pro games, looting and staying in the ring for that much. Yeah.
In high level games, you will see people are gone, are land, loot, and are out of the place that they landed before the first ring has even started closing in most situations. Like, it varies from team to team, but most high level teams will be out of the POI that they landed before the first ring has even started closing, because rotations are that important in a lobby like that. Like,
you land, okay, the first ring shows up and you immediately look at the first ring. You immediately look at it and you're like, okay, the ring is not on us. Loot fast and we leave. Loot really fast and leave. That's what a lot of it was, and that's what, like, the very short amount of time that I was there, that's definitely what we did, right? And I'm sure that's still what you do.
It's still how it is,
right?
Yeah.
The only reason why you would not do that is if the ring is like on you.
The ability that you have to rotate, like the speed at which you can rotate, will heavily dictate how well you do. Because if you can rotate fast, like loot up and rotate fast, and get to a key pivotal position in that next zone, now you're just sitting there, just getting free picks, free kills, and just getting so much higher placement than you would have if you just sat around looting and then slowly made your way in, and now you're in this like little cubby on the edge. You're like barely holding on, you know what I mean? Like the positioning matters so much more than like the extra bit of loot that you could have gotten that you missed out on, or something like that.
Better.
上にいる
And look, there's a team there.
あ、そこいるんだ。そこいるんだったら
If that's the case, should we leave the ring and circle around right? Honestly, not the worst idea. If there is a team in this building right in front of them.
そっちからじゃなくて
100%. That's like, I feel like that's an often potentially sometimes overlooked play of like, it is super valid to go through the ring to rotate, because like round 2 does not hurt that bad. You can be in there for a while before you go down. So like if you can go out ring and pop out somewhere good, totally like do it.
You should be using ring. If you're going to go outside a ring, you should be using that to rotate to a better and more advantageous position, rather than, that's only a good play if there's somebody in this building. But I don't think there is, because they probably would have seen him.
Yeah, you want to avoid going through the ring if you don't have to, because like, you don't want to take damage.
I think she's taking a guess, right?
逆にそっち側取ってたとしても、この入り口とか上の崖上から狩られちゃうから。
So they're talking, yeah, I think they're saying they want to stay down on like the bottom of the map.
左側の方が広いから、アンチが、入ってくる人が多いから左側の方が。
So she's predicting the route that other teams will take, and that's something you definitely want to do.
Yeah, can we open the map real quick? No, that's kind of far. Oh, perfect.
Got him.
No, so because what she was talking about is if you with this next zone, you see like the whole like top side of the map, the top side and more of kind of like the top left, that all of that area is going to be out of the zone, like out of the ring next when the ring closes. So they're saying what she was talking about is like a majority of the teams that still need to rotate into the zone are going to be coming in up there, and there's going to be the most traffic up in that area. And so if they can avoid that area the most and just come kind of stay on the bottom of the map and go down on the right, then they'll be the safest that they can be.
I think they were talking about coming through this like choke right here over to the left, and I think they were saying something along the lines of, no, we probably shouldn't do that. We should probably stay along the right side of the map, avoid the left side, because the more left you are, the more likely, statistically, the more likely you are to run into more teams. And then if you start a fight, then you get third parties. So they're talking about staying down here to avoid a team, because mid-game third party fights are not fun and will happen.
あ、それでも、その前の家にいるみたいな言ってたから。
あ、ここじゃない。
その家じゃないの？
They're talking about array, solar array? I think that's what it's called.
What house are they talking about that there's a team in?
The one to the northwest.
Okay, so yeah, where their ping is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like what we talked about. They were never really able to rotate over there, because like it's a pretty safe guess that there are teams over there.
Yeah, they got really lucky that nobody's in this building. Like, incredibly lucky. Yeah. It's I think she's planning out the rotation path. They already did. They planned bottom right of the map, so orbital. Okay. So they're rotating outside. Once you get double refund, exactly. They're rotating outside. This is what we were saying earlier, is that if you're going to be outside a ring, it should be for a rotation.
Gibby almost falls off the edge. You sent me that clip last night, right? Of like,
no, it was somebody else.
No, I know, but like it's a similar spot of just someone climbing up. But yeah, like you can look at their health and like they took like maybe like a third from that rotate. Like that's nothing. So yeah, it was super easy to do and it's not going to consume a lot of resources. I like how the chat split 1 for because free food, like 1 and then 5 for free food and then 1 because order. So funny. Anyway. So they're looking to ref push because I think they heard shots. There's like a fight going on in orbital, which is good. Like this is why you play Rev, right? You play him because you hear a fight and you don't need to get any more intel. You can literally just plop totem down and just hold your W key and run at them.
Push for absolutely free.
Yeah.
With no skill required.
Yeah,
So
that guy should have not dropped. The guy who dropped right there, went where the zipline is, absolutely should not have dropped.
Yeah, height. If you're ever holding height, the worst thing you can do is jump off of that height. Like you have height and you have this advantage, and that is such an insane advantage over the team below you. But if you just jump on them, it's like what? Why? Like
yeah. I'm assuming that the person dropped down because they were chasing the horizon, right? But there are multiple ways that you could have hurt the horizon or got an angle or a line of sight on that horizon without dropping down. You could have just came to the edge or whatever. Well, you would have been more exposed to the team, but you would have still had your height. It would have been able to escape faster.
It's an important lesson on, like, just because you get an enemy weak doesn't mean you can do anything. Like, if they get out of your sight line, you can't do anything about that. Like, if you try to then get aggressive and try to chase that down and get knocked because you just wanted to knock them, the advantage that you had, you just gave it to the enemy team for no reason, for the only reason that you got greedy.
If you get greedy, the enemy team will punish you for it if they're good.
Correct. Especially in a higher level. The higher the level to play, the more people will punish you.
Yep, that's what's happening here. Like, this person got greedy and they dropped down and they're getting absolutely lasered. They're flesh right now. They're getting absolutely lasered by Matsuri and her Gibby. See, peeking over like that is definitely the way to do it.
Yeah, because even if you take damage when you're on height, you just back up and just re-heal. The height controls the engagements.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, like I said, like height control. Whoever's on height when the engagement happens, right? Because bottom team, all they get to do is sit there and react and wait for the top team to look over the edge. So like top team can engage and disengage and re-engage anytime they want, and they control the flow of the fight, and the bottom team is just to sit there and react. And so like that's what makes it so powerful. And, yeah, giving that up is not good. But yeah, it looks like they back up and they find this little house to just chill on edge and figure out where the next zone is, which is totally fine. Like that's a totally valid play.
It's pretty good, especially because like there's a very good chance there are going to be teams left to the north and to the east, and so this is actually a decent position just for Revenant to be, just because of his ultimate ability. And so he's got a free push either way and pretty much got direct access to both teams if there is a team over to the left as well.
My question is, why chase the enemy you potentially they are alone or not? Exactly, that's what we were talking.
Yeah.
So if you jump down, so it's not just a high ground thing, it's like a general thing. Like if you get someone weak and then you just chase them blindly without any information, 9 times out of 10 the direction they're headed back to their team because they're weak and their team's going to then cover for them. So if you just blindly follow them without knowing where it's are, there's a pretty good chance you're going to turn that corner, or wherever you're turning, you're going to turn it, and the enemy, his 2 teammates are going to be there, and they're just going to laser you, and you're going to die. Nothing you can do about it. Yeah, like you took it from you guys having an advantage over their team, like one of their teammates being weak and potentially able to get knocked, to now it's just a straight 3v2. Like now you're just down a man because you got greedy, because you got reckless, and the only thing you did is you tunnel visioned on the potential for a down and didn't think about anything else.
The only time you should be chasing the enemy, and the only time you should be chasing an enemy and being greedy, is when you know that you are able to do so. So that would require knowing the information of where their teammates are, what their teammates' health is looking like, and other potential teams that might interfere.
Information is key and is the biggest thing about everything. More information, the more of an informed play you can make, and the higher the chance that play works out successfully. So it's all about just like gathering as much information as you can and utilizing that to the best of your ability. Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way. I pushed someone into a building because I thought Teammates are waiting for behind me the door. Yeah, behind the door. Yeah,
ヒートシールド
I've learned that lesson too. Everybody.
左も打ち合ってるな。
I like
一回さ、
sometimes you just
松井さ
don't
ん
think
ここに
and
寄
you
り
just
かかっ
like
てくんないそこの
me hold W,
Go, go,
me ape, me push, and it just happens. It happens the best. You just have to control yourself.
It's hard to do that because every instinct wants to like not, but your brain's
Yeah.
gonna be like.
Your monkey brain takes over, and you're like, he's one. I want to kill him, and that's the only thing you're focusing on.
So it looks like they're about to revolt.
俺と松井さんで行こう、左側。
います
Yeah, they heard fighting up here in the choke,
Yeah.
詰められてる
and so this is what we were talking about. Like
ゆ
all
うさん
the
も
only
もう
information
来
you
ていい
need
よ
to
もう来
take
てい
a
いよ
rev
今の
push
タイ
is
ミ
like
ングで
where the general direction they are. Because if you get sent back to totem, that's the worst thing that can happen.
You can play so much freer because there's no way you'd be up like this without a revolt.
This is like
オッケーオッケーオッケーオッケー
really reckless if you don't have revolt because
さよ
like
なら
you don't have any information. You're just blindly pushing into it. But because they have revolt, they get put back to totem and then they can reset and figure out what they want to do after that. But yeah, they get free. That's the dream as Rev, is to just push into a fight like that and just clean it up.
Yeah, it definitely does not help you in terms of learning fight positioning.
あ肉回復いるじゃん
Yeah. You can notice too how the Rev right now is just trying to find alt accelerants
一
and
回
just
注意
chugging
しな
alt
がらさっきの家
accelerants
戻ろうか
because like
左側マジ
and get like right now too when all the teams are so close, like them having alt
先頭で帰るのめっちゃ怖い
is so much more important
バッテリーにも
because like it's gonna be hard to take a fight without just getting lasered from other teams or like just like a uncontested fight, and being able to just blindly run at shit with alt gives them the potential to get so many more kills than they could otherwise.
Over here.
後ろ絶対来るからね
Should be a how got triple take by Kane rip. How mouse not working? Been there, bro. I feel that.
オッケーオッケー
Totem ready.
まだいいまだいい
Totem
まだいい
ready.
まだいいまだいいまだいい来てない来てない来てない
This means another push is
Yeah.
coming.
これここ
Actually, I'm interested
右
as
から
to
入って裏
what's
ホ
the.
ライゾン飛んで
ブロス
ますね
じゃないかな
Huh?
そうだね
I'm looking up
今ならいけ
the
る今ならい
charge
ける
time
来い来い来い
for totem because I'm just
2
curious.
つ2パ
You can keep playing it.
I am. I didn't
この
bother.
中
Don't
か
worry.
ら炊いていいよ
ー中からなんか多分
やばいやばいね
やばい
そうだね
It's 180 seconds. Okay, so 3
いいよ
minutes.
炊いていいよ炊いていいよそこで炊いていい
ここへ炊きます
So they're ulting and pushing from the low ground, which you can very much do.
これ上から
Although if they don't do enough damage, the enemy can just look over and beam them.
Yeah, this is the strength of Horizon, right? If you didn't have a Wraith, or if you had a Wraith, you couldn't do this, but because you have Horizon,
レブローレブロ
you
ー
just throw Q and you
レブロ
just
ー
zoom up.
So Alkane's so meta right
Yeah.
now.
一人乗って一人レベノックレベノック
Stop.
ラス3チームだまだまだあと2
He's
秒
good in range, but not
いくよいくよいくよ
いていていていて
because jump pad doesn't offer that much utility.
True, true, true.
それも行く
And this is essentially just how to play Revenant textbook 101.
ラスト
Yeah, it's the freest. Like they just jump up,
ナ
hurt
イスナイ
them.
ス
I
ナイ
think
スナ
they
イスナイス
Horizon ulted too. I'm pretty
不
sure.
足巻きます
I would assume. I would be surprised if they didn't, because that's just like a free. You Horizon over them and throw
あ
ult
いいいいアン
and
チいいアンチ
just
こ
clean them
の
up.
このアーマー抜きたいからちょっと待ってね
オッケーオッケー全然いいよ
And now too, if you look at their position is
オッ
the
ケーオッケー見とい
strongest
て見といて俺
in
キ
the
ルポ
zone.
稼げたら稼げたら
because now their edge. The only thing behind them is the zone. I don't have to worry behind them, and they have height over everything else. The only other team that can challenge them is that team across from them that's on like the height. But that team, if you look like teams, there's so much potential for a team to come up behind them. So like they can't just focus. That enemy team can't just focus their team. They have to be constantly aware of their surroundings. Whereas like right now, these guys they can just focus that, and they can just sit here and just pop shots and do whatever for free.
So yeah, this is the strongest position right now to have. Maybe that one over there as well. Similar spots.
ヘビアも
Hey, Big Spy,
Yeah,
what's
like
up, dude?
that.
もらおうかな
Welcome, welcome.
ここでもまあ
High ground. High ground is king.
左の舞
Anytime
台
you can
俺
get
見
high
と
ground
くから
is typically a good position.
Yeah.
ここから出てくるから絶対
OK
This team
So
on
yeah,
height
so
is
they're
definitely your
pretty-
biggest threat right now. If you can, I wouldn't say dealing with this team on height is recommended right now, but like if you can take them out, you
被弾だけ
basically
減らしな
won.
がら頑張って
OK です
Yeah, they don't have to do anything like risky, but pressuring them, putting pressure on them, and forcing them to back down, not challenging,
出てきた
is what you want to do because they're gonna get shot and thirded. Like a team's gonna try to jump up on them and take position. So if you can pressure them and potentially maybe like get one weak, so then another team thirds and cleans them up real quick because you can just knock that one. Like you just want to sit there and grief them basically.
Yeah, that other
Horizon.
team on high is your biggest competitor. Everybody else is dealing with each other.
Plays where high ground team gets waxed by. Yeah, I mean it happens. Like, just because a position is objectively stronger than another position doesn't mean that like
You can't
the
get
position.
outplayed.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't get outplayed by the other team.
Especially abilities definitely
これ
play a big
ルー
part
ル
in
ド使
that.
っていいよそっちで
Yeah.
2人で行って
Like that's where Horizon
咲いた
And Rev.
in a way neutralizes, not neutral, but makes it so high ground isn't isn't as effective because you just queue up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like they just like queue fights and they just go in and rev ult again.
レブノック
Everyone's fighting. It was 4 teams. Now it's just 2.
ラスト
Like they just wiped up the 2 other teams fighting
そこだ
because they could just rev ult for free.
Revolt is completely
9入った
free.
入った
I'm gonna pause it right now before everyone's eardrums are ruined. Yeah, and then the last teams are at and they clean them up. So
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like it's hard to say. There really wasn't much to like say about the fight specifically in terms of like what they did, because what they did as a Rev team was just very standard, very textbook, right? It's definitely
Yeah,
easier to
yeah.
talk about, I guess, what the enemies were doing sort of lots of the time. But we did get to be we were able to explain the power of Revenant as well.
yeah, this whole every engagement that they made is an example of where Revenant's strength comes from. His strength purely relies around like the reason teams pick Rev is for his totem and his totem alone, because it allows you to get the potential to get so many more kills, which then give you more points and put you higher than any other team, because you can just slap totem, hit it, and just run at a team, and you don't have to worry about going down or anything. You just go back to the totem. And so he's strong in that regard. And in more competitive lobbies, it doesn't work as well, just because like people will punish you, people will camp your totem, or will just notice like where you're coming from and play around it better. Yeah, I mean it worked really well here. They were able to just take fights. They saw teams fighting and just ran right in and just griefed them and got free KP.
Yep.
And I mean, the fact that they won that high ground too is like probably the biggest thing that won them the game.
Yeah,
because they could just
100%.
sit there and just poke,
100%.
take shots for free.
100%. No
Seen a lot
doubt
of Rev
about
Octane. Yeah, so Rev Octane you see a ton in ranked and not really anywhere else. Because one, it's King's Canyon, so everything is closer together, so teams can like ape from can get to you faster. And two, is because it's ranked, and like in ranked you can go around and just bully people with aim. And so if you can just Rev Totem, Octane pad at a team and just fry them, like you can get away with that. But you can't really get away with something like that in competitive, because positioning matters so much more, and teams will be set up in much better positions and thinking about position instead of just like running around the map aping each other, because rank's kind of just like an ape fest. The biggest thing that I would say that like the mistake they made would be zone, would be like focusing on where the zone's going more, pulling the map up, and like planning rotates out more, and obviously not rotating out of your POI faster, because like they sat in there where they landed forever and then sat in zone forever, and like they're lucky that a team wasn't holding them out when they rotated in, but like it is a lot more common for when they try to re-enter zone that there's a team there or like someone stopping. Like they were able to rotate for free the path that they took. They didn't encounter anybody. The first time
really
they
lucky.
encountered a team was that team on the high ground there at the wall. So like yeah, they definitely got lucky, but you shouldn't play around the fact that you get lucky. You should expect for the worst.
All right, guys, and that's the CR Cup Matsuri VOD review, her win. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We got one more to do, and we spent a lot of time on that one, almost like 2 hours. You guys down? We're gonna live react. So we've seen that one before, and I saw the one before that I did before this. So we have not seen this next one, so we're gonna be seeing it for the first time. That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to live react to it.